Was Julius Caesar real, or just a tall tale? Let's begin by traveling back over 2,000 years ago to a place called Rome. It was a big and powerful city, filled with people in togas talking in Latin. The streets were bustling, and at the center of it all was Julius Caesar. They say he was a great leader, a brave soldier, and a clever thinker. But the big question is, was Julius Caesar real? First, let's see who people say Julius Caesar was. He was born a long time ago, in the year 100 BC. That's over 2,000 years ago. People say he was very smart and loved to read and write. He even wrote books about his adventures. He became a soldier and fought in many battles. The stories say he was very brave and won lots of victories. Eventually, he became the leader of Rome. They called him a dictator, which means he was in charge of almost everything. Now, here comes the mystery. Many people have heard about Julius Caesar, but how do we know he was real? There weren't any cameras or phones back then to take pictures or videos of him. So how can we be sure? Well, you see, back in those days, people wrote things down on paper. Some of these papers have survived all this time. There are old books and writings that talk about Julius Caesar and the things he did. There were historians, which are like detectives of history, who wrote about Caesar's life and times. These writings give us clues about what kind of person Caesar might have been. But we must be careful, because stories can change as they're told. Sometimes people might make things sound more exciting than they really were. So, are all these stories about Julius Caesar true? Another clue is the statues and coins. Many years ago, people made statues of Caesar and put his face on coins. These are very old and help us know what people thought he looked like. But do these objects prove that he was real, or were they just made to tell stories? As good detectives, we also look at where he lived. There are places in Rome, like the Forum and the Colosseum, where people say he walked. Even though these places have changed a lot over time, they give us a peek into the world of Julius Caesar. Now let's look at what happened to Caesar. The story says he was very powerful, but some people didn't like how much power he had. They wanted Rome to be ruled by more people, not just one. So one day, Caesar was surrounded by a group of men, and something very sad happened. He was hurt very badly and lost his life. Some say his last words were "et tu, Brute," which means "and you, Brutus." This part sounds like a story from a book. It's dramatic and full of emotion, so with all these clues, what do you think? Was Julius Caesar real? In the end, most historians believe that Julius Caesar was indeed a real person. He left a big mark on history with his actions. But it's also true that the stories about him are mixed with facts and myths. Some things about his life may be true, while other parts could be just legends. Detectives, you've done amazing work today. Remember, history is like a giant puzzle. We use clues to piece together the story. Whether all of Julius Caesar's stories are true or not, they help us understand how people lived long ago. They teach us about courage, leadership, and sometimes the consequences of having too much power. Subscribe if you love ancient Rome.